Welcome back to the Automation Podcast, the world's #1 industrial automation product and technology show. Thanks to you, our audience of highly skilled automation professionals. Thank you for being a member of our audience, and thank you for tuning back in this week. Now, for those new to the show, my name is Shawn of Insights in Automation, and each week I invite a new vendor on the show to tell us about their products and technologies. And during their presentation, I play the role of the audience, asking questions I think you have and questions I have as well. Now, given that a quarter of our audience listens, not views, but listens to the show, I'll also try to call attention to any details in the visuals that I think the listen-only audience may want to know about. So with that said, I want to welcome back to the show Raj, and back for the first time, or here for the first time, Garett, both from Siemens. Guys, thank you for coming on the show today. I'm excited about the subject matter we're going to talk about. But before we get into that, could you guys introduce yourselves to our audience?
Yeah, sure, Shawn. First of all, thank you for having us today. We're excited about the time today to talk about our topic. And my name is Garett Williams. I'm a portfolio development specialist for distributed I/O for Siemens for the U.S. market. I've been in the industrial automation space for about 25 years. Most of that time has been with Siemens, with a bit of a detour for about 3 years working for a systems integrator. But lots of experience in the field, and excited to talk today about IP65 and 67 I/O.
Excellent. We're glad to have you. And Raj, I know you've been on the show before, but could you give us an intro to our audience in case they missed that previous episode?
Yes, my name is Rajendra. I'm the product manager for our I/O systems known as ET200 in Siemens. And I'm also a product manager for our little logic controller called Logo. I've been with Siemens for many years now, and I have had different roles in different countries. My present role is, as I said before, I'm the product manager for the I/O systems.
Excellent. And guys, I'm excited to talk about, we kind of talked about this in the pre-show, but I'm excited to jump into your presentation. So without further ado, let me turn it back to you and tell us what's new and exciting about these products.
All right. Thanks, Shawn. Yeah, as you can see today, what we're going to talk about is thinking outside of the box, right? And when we say the box, what we're referring to is the control cabinet. What we want to talk about today is machine mount I/O, or IP65, 67 I/O. Why it's becoming even more prominent today, and some of the trends we're seeing in the market, and how Siemens addresses it with our ET200 products that are part of the IP65, 67 offering. So what we're going to kind of talk about first, Shawn, is, again, I want to talk about why. Why do we want to use machine mount I/O? Why is it important? Why are we seeing more people using them than ever before? We're also going to talk about some new technologies that really go right along with that machine mount I/O offering, and that's going to be I/O Link and multi-field bus. We'll do an overview of the Siemens portfolio for IP65 and 67. It's not going to be a deep dive, but it'll be a good overview talking about the positioning of each of the systems, and that's it. So before I get into specifically, the IP65, 67 offering, I do want to talk about Siemens I/O. So as Raj said, anytime you hear the term ET200 from Siemens, think I/O. ET200 is synonymous with I/O. Anytime you see ET200, it could be some type of I/O. Now with Siemens, there's a whole variety of I/O, which I'm going to show you here in a second. But one thing I really want to start off with is that just like everything else in our space, right, in industrial automation, especially in the last few years, we've seen rapid change in terms of what we're seeing in the market in terms of new products, new trends, new technologies, and ultimately more automation, which is a really good thing for all of us. And distributed I/O is no different. If you look at the distributed I/O portion of a control system, it is a very significant portion of that control system. Typically, think in terms of a control cabinet, right? If you open up a control cabinet, many times there's more I/O in there than anything else. So, but those requirements are changing. What we're seeing today as demands from companies is they want platforms that are scalable. That means it's a portfolio that whether they have a small application or a very large application, it needs to be a platform that they can scale with. It also needs to be flexible, meaning you can combine different versions or different types of I/O to achieve your design goals. It needs to be open. Open in terms of communication is really what we're focusing on here, is looking at standardization in terms of field buses, looking at standardizations in terms of protocols for communication between OT and IT. companies are demanding openness. So they're not locked into one or the other. They have flexibility in the openness in terms of communication. And certainly expandable. There's more and more types of I/O that's coming into our automation systems. So we need technology that can be expanded to achieve the goals of some of these new demands for our solutions. When we talk about Siemens ET200, again, the broad portfolio of all of our I/O products, the strength is we have I/O for any application, whether it be inside of a control cabinet or outside of a control cabinet. What I'm showing here is just kind of a mock-up of a production line, right? This is a bottling line, showing all the different types of I/O that you might see on a typical application, and this could be really any automation application. But first, you have your PLCs, right? In our case, it's the S7-1500. It's in a control cabinet. What we're showing here in Area 1 is what you would typically think of as rack mount type I/O with our S7-1500 I/O or ET200MP I/O is what it's referred to as. It can also be distributed, but many times it's connected directly to the PLC. So we have that. Then we get into the smaller modular I/O called our ET200SP line. This is a compact modular system. It's IP20, so it needs to be inside of a cabinet. But this is what you're going to see as small control cabinets distributed along this line. So we see it here in Area 2. We see it here in Area 3. This is our SP product. Again, in-cabinet IP20 I/O. Also, for ET200SP, there's also a distributed controller. So there's a CPU in that ET200SP form factor that for all intents and purposes is an S7-1500. It's just in that I/O form factor, and it's used to be distributed along a production line. So that's everything here on the left-hand side of the screen. It's in the cabinet I/O, or IP20. Everything on the right here, and this is what we're seeing a lot more of, and this is going to be the focus of our discussion today, is machine mount I/O, or IP65, 67 I/O. In our case, we start with our ET200AL product line, which is a modular block type I/O system. So it's block I/O that's mounted directly on the machine, but it's modular. And when I say modular, what I mean is you have an interface module for where your fuel bus connects, and you have your variety of I/O modules that connect into that interface module to build out a complete ET200AL system. The other key thing with the ET200SP is that many applications today, you have I/O both inside of a control cabinet and outside of a control cabinet. With ET200AL, you can essentially extend the ET200SP rack. So you might have SPIO inside of a cabinet, and you can extend it with AL modules on the machine, and it's all essentially one PLC or I/O rack. So that's an important feature we have with ET200AL, and we'll talk about that more later on. Also with ET200AL, we offer I/O Link. In fact, for all of our I/O systems, we have I/O Link Masters. Specifically for ET200AL, we have I/O Link Masters. Also, we have I/O Link modules, or many times referred to as hubs. That's also available in the ET200AL form factor. And you see that here in Area number 6. And what's important to note here, this is a robot arm. Because of its small size, lightweight, or low payload, the ET200AL is perfect for moving applications. Next, here in Area number 7, what we're highlighting is ET200 Pro. This is a full modular I/O system. So this is essentially, think of an I/O rack. It's not in a cabinet, but it's completely mounted on a machine, just like you see in the picture here. You have this conveyor line, and you have a complete lineup of ET200 Pro mounted here. What's interesting about ET200 Pro is the power that it has. It also has a CPU that you can put out in its form factor and a variety of technology modules we'll talk more about here in a few minutes. And the last thing we'll highlight here is Area 8 here is called our ET200 Eco PN product. This is standalone block I/O. And this thing's built like a tank. This is probably the most rugged offering that we have. It's IP65, 67, and also 69K rating, which isn't actually highlighted on the slide here. And it's intended for both indoors and outdoors. So for applications that are outdoors, IP65, 67 rated, ET200 Eco PN is a really good fit for that application. So when we talk about scalability and flexibility, you get it with Simatic ET200 I/O for every application, either inside of a cabinet or outside of a cabinet. But our focus today is IP65, 67. So it's outside of the cabinet. So we wanted to start with why would you want to use machine mount I/O? And also, why are we seeing it more today? If you look at all the different types of I/O that are out there, so there's rack mount I/O, there's modular I/O, distributed I/O, there's both IP20 and IP6567. It's that IP6567 machine mount I/O that's growing faster than any other area of the I/O market. And the reason why that is because people want to use, they need to get more data. So it's not always to get access, it's not always easy to access that data if you're doing everything through a control cabinet. So that's why we're seeing more and more applications where they're using machine mount I/O. What we're showing here is typically for an IP20 application, you see this large control cabinet here. Everything's here. Your PLC's here, your I/O's here. You likely have drives and other things in this control cabinet. Sometimes this can be challenging because you have additional materials required because of the control cabinet. Also for all of your I/Os in this control cabinet, so you have longer cable runs that are going out to your sensors and actuators. So that's more cost in terms of cable runs, and simply it requires more design planning. What you get when you have IP6567, especially in combination with IP20, is you can save money, first of all, because you can reduce the size of that control cabinet. So less real estate also means cost savings in terms of the panel. Also, because you're putting the I/O modules right where the actuator or sensor may be, you save a lot of money on wiring costs. Your cable runs are much shorter. Also, you have more flexibility this way in some ways because you don't have to plan on how you're going to put everything inside of the cabinet and then route to all of your I/O on the line. You have more flexibility because you can put I/O in more places when you're putting it on the machine. So bottom line is the advantages with using IP6567 is time and material savings for wiring, also that control cabinet. It could be reduced effort going into planning. It allows for smaller machine concepts, but you're not working with such large panels necessarily, so you can take more of a smaller modular approach. And certainly space saving in the cabinet. Also, with the machine mount I/O, it really comes into play in a big way for brownfield situations where maybe you need to do a machine retrofit or a retrofit on a line. So it really makes it easy for retrofitting. As an example, we're showing here on the slide, Mr. Customer here has a need to pick up data from more sensors. He needs some additional temperature data, some additional quality data. But if you look at his panel here, it's completely full. So it's like, okay, well, how am I going to fit this in? It creates a number of design challenges. But the answer can easily be machine mount I/O because it's much more flexible. You don't need to have it in the central control cabinet. You can put it out on the machine right where you need it. You're going to save time and money, just like we just discussed, because no control cabinet. You don't have the long cable runs. And overall, because it is so easy, it's a lot easier and quicker to react to needs that you might have that require changes made to a system. So these are the big benefits that we're seeing with the machine mount I/O, and it's the reason why we're seeing its growth. Again, this is an area that's growing quicker than any other part of the I/O market right now. It's simply because companies are looking for more and more data in order to optimize their operations, and you can get to a lot of that data that more easily using machine mount I/O. I'll pause there. Any questions on this so far?
Another point we emphasize is that the advantage with these machine mount I/O, especially the block I/O, you are not restricted to mounting them in a particular way, like horizontal, vertical, or whatever. It can be mounted in any way you like. It can be hanging it can be at a 45-degree angle, or it can be vertical, horizontal, it doesn't matter. That's how they are designed. So you can mount them directly on the arm of a robot. The arm can be moving at different angles. It doesn't restrict, there are no restrictions on that. Garett?
Yeah, really good point, Raj. And you can see that on the screen here. It can be vertical, it can be horizontal, it can be at any angle. It's mounted directly on the machine. And these, many times, like in the case of ET200AL, which we'll talk about here in a second, along with ECO, these are small. These blocks are small. They're lightweight, they're compact, so you can fit them in spaces that maybe you didn't typically think about as far as an area to mount I/O, but you can certainly do that with this type of I/O. All right. Well, what I wanted to show here is just kind of just a quick overview of all of the IP65, 67 I/O that we offer, and how it's some examples of the application and how it's positioned. So when we talk about ET200AL, this is small, lightweight, plastic enclosed IP65, 67 block I/O. We see it a lot for material handling and assembly applications. Also special machine building, maybe where you have robot arms or things like that. ET200AL really comes into play there because of its size and the ability to flexibly mount it to moving applications. Just like it says here on the system features, it's especially useful for difficult to reach plant components. Some of the unique selling points for the ET200AL is, again, when you're looking at, many times these days, companies aren't just using I/O in a cabinet exclusively or exclusively I/O on a machine. They're using a combination of both. ET200AL is a real good bridge for that because you can use it as a direct connection of ET200SP. So you could have that control cabinet that has maybe ET200SP I/O in it, and you can extend that SP rack using the ET200AL modules. So it really adds more flexibility in terms of design and bridges that I/O from inside the cabinet to outside the cabinet. Next, we have ET200 Pro. This is probably the most feature-rich in terms of functionality and in terms of technology and communication that we have for machine mount I/O. This is a fully modular system. Again, think of it as a complete I/O rack that rather than being inside of a cabinet, it's on a machine. We see a lot of this in the automobile industry, also intralogistics, so conveyor technology, and also machine tools is where you see a lot of the ET200 Pro applications. It is, again, a modular system, also a multifunctional system with a very broad portfolio in terms of the offering, which we'll talk about more here in a few minutes. Some of the highlights are it has a CPU that comes in this form factor, which is essentially S7-1500. Also, just like all of our I/O, we offer I/O Link Master. It also has technology modules, including modules that there's a motor starter module. So you actually have a motor starter that's in the form factor of I/O that's out on your line. Also frequency inverters or drives up to, I believe it's 1.5 kW that you can actually put out of the line with the ET200 Pro system. RFID fail-safe modules. So you have a standard variant. You also have a fail-safe variant. In fact, all of our I/O, you have a fail-safe variant and a standard variant. Also pneumatics. So there's valve terminal modules also available for ET200 Pro. So again, when we talk about feature-rich and a broad portfolio, you certainly get that with the ET200 Pro lineup.
Can I mention this? With these motor starters and VFDs for the ET200 Pro, you get them in a standard version and a fail-safe version also for them. So that's very important.
Yeah, really good point.
Thank you.
Thanks, Raj. Yeah, and then last on this list is the ET200 Eco PN. Again, this is standalone block I/O. So, and we'll talk about here in more detail here in a few minutes, but one way it's differentiated from ET200AL, which is also block I/O, is that AL is modular, meaning you have to have an interface module that your field bus connects to, and you have I/O modules coming off an interface module. With ET200 Eco, it's true standalone block I/O, meaning that interface module is essentially built into every unit, every block. So there's no interface module required. You have one block, and you connect it directly to your field bus. We see ET200 Eco applications pretty much everywhere. But certainly the automobile industry, packing machines, machine tool, food and beverage. Food and beverage also specifically because while Eco is IP65 and 67 rated, it's also 69K rated, which you're going to see in food and beverage applications along with pharmaceutical applications. It's the most rugged I/O that we offer. This thing is built like a tank, and for that reason, it can be used both indoors and outdoors. Just like we mentioned on the other I/O systems, you have both a fail-safe variant and a standard variant. And just like with all Siemens I/O, you mix that I/O together. It's not exclusively safe or exclusively standard. You can have both in essentially a single rack. Also, it's approved for hazardous locations, ATEX 2 for gas and 22 for dust. And again, it has a wide temperature specification, so it can be used all the way down to minus 40 degrees C and all the way up to plus 60 degrees C is what the rating is for the ET200 EcoPM product. All right, any questions on those three I/O systems? And we'll go into more detail here in a little bit on all three of these. So we talked about the I/O systems, but there's some new technology that falls right in line with those systems that really make them an ideal fit for many of the design challenges and solutions that companies are looking for today. One of those is I/O Link, right? So we talked about one of the reasons why we're seeing a lot more machine mount I/O is simply because companies need more data, and it's much easier to get to that data where it's at. So that's why you're seeing the machine mount I/O. For that same reason, I/O Link is really becoming much more prominent. If you're not familiar with I/O Link is it's not a field bus. It's a point-to-point communication protocol that's really intended to get to data at that lowest field level. So you get your data and as well as your diagnostics at the lowest field level. I/O Link has been around for, probably a dozen years. It is an open standard. It's governed by PI North America. So PI North America is the same organization that governs Profinet and Profibus. Because it's an open standard, there's hundreds of manufacturers that produce product for I/O Link. In the case of Siemens, we make I/O modules that are I/O Link masters, along with I/O Link modules or hubs. We also have motor control devices that go inside of a control cabinet that are also I/O Link. So things like different types of relays, motor starters, identification, RFID, signal columns, things like that. A variety of components that are available in I/O Link. The advantages of I/O Link, again, you get to that data at the lowest field level. You can use both I/O Link rated sensors along with standard sensors. So it allows for standard sensors to be used and come into the system along with I/O Link. So, and that allows you to use standard sensor cabling. So use a standard 3-core cabling in terms of the cabling, so it can use what's already out there. It's field bus independent. Again, it's not a field bus, and it's also field bus independent. The I/O Link system is separate, and you bring it into that I/O Link master, which then interfaces with your field bus. I mentioned a very large number of suppliers, and it's growing every day. And again, because it's an open standard, just like Profibus or Profinet or other field bus manufacturers, there's a standard IODD file that comes with every approved I/O Link device that brings all the standard data structure and parameter set that you get for every single I/O Link device. Very flexible configuration. So sometimes if you're designing a system, maybe you're not sure exactly how many digital inputs you need, or how many digital outputs you need, or how many analogs you need. With I/O Link, that's okay, because the I/O Link ports on each of these modules is configurable for whatever type of I/O you need it to be. So it really provides a great deal of flexibility there. And also another big plus for I/O Link, and the reason why we see it at a lot of facilities, is the ease of maintenance. Everything with I/O Link typically is going to be an M8 or M12 type connector. And it's intended to be used. So if you need to swap out a module, all of the parameterization and configuration is held at the master level. So if you have a module that needs replaced, you just swap it out very easily and put it back in, reconfigures itself, and you're ready to go. So from a maintenance standpoint, very easy, which is especially important today because everyone's engineering staff is slimmer than what it has been in past years, especially at that maintenance level. So it's all about minimizing downtime, and you can certainly do that with I/O Link.
Yeah, Garett, can I add? With I/O Link, the advantage is, like Garett said, it uses a 3-wire cable, and you might think that, okay, 3-wire cable, so what? But it brings in a bunch of data. For example, if you take a temperature relay, it doesn't just bring the temperature alone. It brings all kind of values like the alarm points that you can online change them, the alarms and events. And it's usually, if you want to have virus such a system like this, you will need 20 or 30 pieces of wires running to that temperature monitoring place, whereas this is one 3-wire cable and it's all done. Very simple and straightforward.
Garett? And like you said, Raj, it's additional data. It's access to data that companies haven't had in the past at that level. So and you can use that information in an intelligent way to optimize your operations and ultimately make our systems more productive at a lower cost. The other technology that I want to highlight, and this is specific to Siemens, in that we call it multi-field bus. Again, we talked earlier about openness and communication. What we're seeing is many customers, if you go to a factory, for example, they might have a variety of machines that come in from a variety of different vendors. So sometimes those have different control systems on them with different networks, right? Or maybe you're an OEM machine builder and you're shipping your product to an end user customer. And maybe one customer has a standard where maybe they want their network as Modbus TCP. Maybe another one is Ethernet IP. Well, again, because that I/O is a very large portion of that control system, wouldn't it be nice if you didn't have to change out the I/O hardware at all, and you could communicate to the three primary field buses that we see in the market today, those being Profinet, Ethernet IP, and Modbus TCP. So one piece of hardware will communicate all three and very easily configured within software. This is something that we offer for our ET200AL product, our ET200 Eco product, also going back to what's in cabinet, ET200SP, ET200MP, and then even beyond that, with the ET200 Pro, we don't have multi-field bus there right now, but what we do have is we have both Profinet and Ethernet IP communication available on the ET200 Pro. So the idea here is we want to make sure companies have flexibility. They have flexibility in terms of open communication. No matter what their standard is, Siemens I/O will work, and it's best in class. All right. Raj, I'll take a break from talking a little bit here. I'll hand off to you to go through some of these use cases.
Yes, like Garett said, with our multi-field bus technology, we are able to support different field bus systems like Ethernet IP or Modbus TCP with one module. So that means one I/O system that supports both. Why do we do that? First of all, we have created a special business division that's only manages our I/O system. We don't care whether it is Siemens PLC. We want to supply I/O to the industry. Why is that? Because some industries prefer particular field bus systems. For example, Modbus TCP is preferred by energy management systems or tunnels. Here in the US, lots of OEM might prefer Ethernet IP. So we wanted to supply I/O system that can be configured for anything the customer wants. So in this example here, we have one I/O system that is talking to one Ethernet IP controller. On the other side, on the right-hand side, you see the same I/O block is talking to a Modbus PLC. This is one case in point. And the next slide, please.
Yeah, go ahead. Quick comment on this one, Raj. So it does say ET200SP up here on the top, but what we're showing here is ET200 Eco. So we should probably change that on this slide, but this is showing ET200 Eco communicating to either a Rockwell processor or a Modbus-based processor here.
The other case here is what you see is the previous case we were showing the cabinet-based I/O system, and same can be done for our machine mount I/O also with our block I/Os like ET200 Eco or ET200AL. You can have them outside of cabinet directly mounted on the machine. Same deal here, like one block is controlling is controlled by Ethernet IP controller and another block is controlled by Modbus TCP. So the first case was for IP20 and this example is for IP65-67 type of I/O. Here is another case, same thing with our ET200 AL systems. We were telling that ET200 AL can be used with an interface module, or in these another possibility is that you can run it off an ET200 SP station with a bus adapter for that. There is a special bus adapter. You plug it into the cabinet-based I/O and run the ET cable, ET connection cable, and you can connect your ET200 AL I/O modules to that.
Yeah, so picture this SP that we're showing here. This is inside of a cabinet. And then you have the connection coming outside of the cabinet with these ET200 AL blocks.
This is a more complex system whereby what we are doing is we have 3 different controllers connecting to one I/O system, in this case a block I/O system. They all can manage that I/O block. That is one of the reasons we call it multi-field bus. Multi-field bus in that it can not only do one at a time, it can also, our I/O systems can manage different field bus systems at the simultaneously on the same wire also. It doesn't matter. What's the advantage to the customer? Yes, you have for example, you have an existing I/O plant running with some I/O and you want to extend your I/O and also you want to bring in another controller. No problem. It just seamlessly integrates with the existing controllers. The other advantage is that these controllers, there are 3 controllers, so all of them will have some outputs to manage. For example, let's say Ethernet IP manages some part of the outputs and Modbus controller manages another part of the outputs, and Profinet controller manages another part of that. But they all can share the value status in that input status of all the inputs and outputs at the same time. That means I can read the output status of the Ethernet IP controllers, the I/O managed by the Ethernet IP and the Modbus TCP. And the same is true with them also. Ethernet IP controller can read the status of all the I/O points irrespective of who is controlling that. It's called shared device, and that's one of the great features that we wanted to emphasize here.
Yeah, and just to emphasize again, so that's one I/O device communicating to multiple PCs over multiple networks at the same time over the same cable. So that's true design flexibility there.
So it's called shared device and module shared inputs and module shared outputs. That's what we mean when we say you can go and read all the values of the inputs from another controller's I/O managed by another controller. How do we go about it? I mean, the question becomes, okay, that's all good, looks so nice, but how do I configure this I/O station for Ethernet IP or Modbus TCP or Profinet? It's all very easy. We supply a tool called multi-field bus configuration tool, which we abbreviate as MFCT. The MFCT tool is a free download from our service and support website. Anyone can go and download it. And you can configure the station. Let's say you have connected up your module to the cable coming out of your module, and you connect your PC to that and run this software, which is not, you don't even have to install that. It is an executable file. And it'll go to the field and detect the I/O blocks, I/O stations in the network, and tell you, I can find these stations on this network, and do you want to configure them? So you will select the station you want to configure, and go ahead and select and say, okay, this station has this module and this module and this module. Then you go and one step further and say, okay, those modules are there. What is the field bus it's going to use? You will select and say it's Ethernet IP or Modbus TCP or Profinet. And then also you will parameterize the module, saying that this module is a high feature module. It has lots of diagnostics. I want to bring in all these diagnostics into the PLC. You can select that. That's all. After that, you transfer the configuration to the module, and the module is ready to be used by the different controllers. And for documentation purposes and configuring with third-party controllers like Ethernet IP, it will also generate the EDS file that is required to be installed in Studio 5000, for example. And also for the ease of the user to understand how is the data structured, we will generate the data structure for that called UDT file that you can bring inside the Studio 5000 to interpret all the I/O modules and the channels in the configuration. It's all simple 4 steps, and we have several videos in our support pages. You can play that and see. And once you have a module within your hand and you have to configure that, just download the configuration tool and you should be able to set it up very easily.
Yeah, that's the key word, Raj. It's easy. And as Raj, as you indicated, we have a link here later in the slide that everyone can take a look at that goes through. There's a step-by-step video, step-by-step guide that really shows how easy it is to use this configuration tool. And we encourage people to go out and download it. It's a free tool. You can download it and see how it works for yourself. So just again to kind of go through in a little bit more detail on each of the machine mount I/O systems. We talked a lot about these, but ET200AL, you can see it firsthand here. Again, this is plastic enclosed, very lightweight, very small. It's mounts directly on the machine, even on moving parts of the machine. It fits very well there. It has everything is standardized in terms of color coding and CAD designation. So you have a certain color for your power, a certain color for your field bus connection, and another color for all I/O connections. So it makes it very easy. Again, think of it in terms of like maybe that maintenance engineer. You want to make things as simple and as easy as possible so you minimize any complexity in replacing modules out in the field to minimize downtime. You do that with standardization here in terms of the color coding and the uniform designation. Also, the flexibility, again, this is a good bridge product for going from inside the control cabinet to on the machine because you can connect it directly to ET200SP. You have an I/O Link master available in ET200 Eco, also I/O Link modules. So even if you're not using the ET200AL as your I/O Link master, you can use any I/O Link master, whether it be Siemens or someone else, but you can use these ET200AL I/O Link modules in that system. An I/O Link module or hub is used for if you want to bring standard sensors into an I/O Link system and you want to, and what's existing out there, that's where you're going to use this hub or module. So in our case, this all comes in the form factor of ET200AL. You have up to 16 channels, digital channels on a module, and there's all different configurations of that. There's also combination modules and also configurable I/O where it can be a digital input or digital output. You have that available on ET200AL. We already talked about the small footprint, high vibration resistance. I believe it's up to, is it 15 Gs, Raj, on the ET200AL?
I think something, yes.
Yeah. So ET200AL, again, very small, very lightweight, very flexible in how you use it for your machine mount applications. ET200 Eco PN. This again, I'll go back to ET200AL real quick. Again, this is modular, so you're going to have an interface module for where your field bus comes in, and then you're going to have a variety of I/O modules that come off of that. So this is modular block I/O. The standalone block I/O is ET200 Eco PN. No interface module. You have this one single block that also has the interface module built into it. These are multi-field bus. So you can plug this into Profinet, connect it to Profinet, connect it to Ethernet IP, or connect it to Modbus TCP. Same hardware for each network. It comes in both a standard variation and a fail-safe variation. This is our most robust and rugged I/O. It's built like a tank. It can be used both indoors and outdoors. IP65, IP67, and IP69K rated. Operation from minus 40 degrees C to plus 60 degrees C, and high vibration resistance up to 20 Gs for the ET200 Eco PN. So again, especially for outdoor applications, one of the applications we have is for transportation. So just think of, if you have large truck or a train or mining equipment or something like that, there's a lot of vibration there. This is the right product for those types of applications. Going back to performance, again, a lot of openness and flexibility with communication with Profinet, Ethernet IP, and Modbus TCP. Also broad portfolio that you have, just like all of our I/O, fail-safe variants and standard variants. You can mix them. This is all the M12L modules are all L-coded M12 connections. That means they have a higher current carrying capacity up to 12 amps. And then you can also use this in hazardous locations, so ATEX 2 and 22. And then also these are designed for safe shutdown up to SIL 2 level safety. We'll talk about that here in just a second in a little bit more detail. And then the last product that we'll show here, but certainly not least for the machine mount offering, is ET200 Pro. As you can see here in the picture, this is true modular I/O, and that it looks just like an I/O rack inside of a control cabinet, but it's on the machine. It's simple, very fast assembly, large, wide range of portfolio for a variety of applications. So you have safety, I/O link masters, motor starters, frequency converters, pneumatics, etc., all in this form factor. Also CPU. You can get a CPU, which is essentially an S7-1500 in the ET200 Pro form factor. All of our I/O, including ET200 Pro, we really take pride in the diagnostics, the integrated diagnostics that are built in that come into the engineering system. Also, what you actually see on the device itself. So you have very fast fault detection through detailed channel granular diagnostics. So diagnostics down to the channel level. Also, very easy signaling on the device itself with all of the LED displays that you have on the module. High availability, again, especially for you want to minimize downtime. So everything is hot swappable. There's active backplane here, so the modules are hot swappable. So that's going to minimize the downtime if you have a module that needs to be replaced. And also, you have a lot of flexibility in terms of connection. We're showing here in this picture is here on the left, you have each port here is single channel connection, but you could also take this front piece off and snap on a new connection module. In this case, what we're showing here is a 4-port double channel module. So and there's a lot of other modules available there depending on your connection types. A lot of flexibility there in terms of how you connect. And I just mentioned this a second ago. We talk about safety. We have full safety modules available for all of our I/O, but also we have a thing that we call safety-related group disconnect with standard I/O. What this allows you to do is essentially use standard I/O without a safety controller for up to SIL 2 level safety. Basically, once you're in a safety situation, you can safely shut down all of your standard I/O using this system. So it gives you a lot of flexibility. It goes up to SIL 2 level, so it's not going to do SIL 3, but it gives you a lot of flexibility for what's a very common safety application in SIL 2 level. So that's important.
Yeah, Garett, can I add? A lot of times it is misunderstood that you have to always have a SIL 3 level safety. It's a SIL 3 level safety application. So if you go to a consultant and he might tell you, no, you don't need SIL 3 for this application. SIL 2 is sufficient. What does that mean? Then you don't need a safety controller because the outputs can be shut down with an external relay with standard modules. That's the advantage using SIL 2 level safety. It's only for the outputs, your digital or analog output. They can be shut down in a safe manner at SIL 2 level without a safety controller. Garett,
there's definitely an advantage to having that. So thanks for that, Raj. And real quick, as we kind of wind things down here, what we do want to highlight is what we're trying to emphasize here when we think outside of the box with machine mount I/O. It's about making things easy, right? We're challenged to get more and more data, but make it as easy as possible. You do that with machine mount I/O. You talk about multi-field bus and I/O link. Again, making things easier, allowing companies to standardize on how they communicate and allowing flexibility so that the product will adhere to whatever that standard may be. In the theme of making things easy and standardization, we also want to make sure we have options for CAD drawings. A lot of times this is something that takes quite a bit of time, but people don't put a lot of thought into it up front in terms of how much time that it does require to do your drawings. We offer both AutoCAD and ePlan for all of the I/O that we talked about today. So you can go to the Autodesk website or to the Siemens Industry Online Support website. You can get the PLC content pack for I/O for all of the drawings for AutoCAD. They have also ePlans available as well. Last thing I have here is just some helpful links. We hit on a lot of information pretty quickly today, but all the links that we show here is we have an overview for the entire ET200 portfolio. Again, I/O for every application. We have a website a site that details multi-field bus and how that works, along also with the support documentation website. We talked about those step-by-step videos, guides, everything you need to know about multi-field bus can all be found on this support documentation website. And then I/O Link, all the information on every product that Siemens manufactures for I/O Link and how I/O Link fits into the Siemens portfolio can be found on this site. And the last two links here are TIA selection tool. For those of you that haven't used this, this is essentially your configuration tool for anything Siemens automation related. This is how you can configure a bill of material. Makes it very easy to sort out an architecture and pick out parts for a solution. And the last link here is the multi-field bus configuration tool. Again, we talked about how easy it is. Here's the link for it. We challenge you to go check it out and try it for yourself. So last thing I'll mention here is I/O Link. Again, this is an open standard. So PI North America governs this. If you want to learn more about I/O Link, they will be offering several user workshops. These are free of charge, one-day workshops, very informative, very educational. Great place to go to learn more about I/O Link. The next one's coming up in San Jose, California on March 21st. So for anyone in that area or who's going to be in that area, these are great sessions. I highly recommend them. And with that, our contact information is now on the screen, and that concludes what we plan to present today, Shawn.
Well, Garett and Raj, I want to thank you both for coming on the show and bringing us up to speed on this machine mount I/O and all the different features and functions that are available, including the multi-field bus, which I think is so cool. And just really want to thank you guys for taking time out of your busy schedule to come on the show and bring us up to speed. Thank you.
Well, thank you. We appreciate the time.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode. And I want to thank Garett and Raj for coming on the show to bring us up to speed on Siemens machine mount I/O. And with that, if you did enjoy this episode, please consider giving us a like, a sub, and a share. That is the fuel that keeps this show on the air and coming back week after week. Also, if you want to get in touch or you want to follow me, you can do so over at automation.locals.com. And you'll also find all of my training courses over at theautomationschool.com. And with that, I want to wish you all a very happy, safe, and healthy week. And I want to encourage you to stay fearless, stay courageous, and no matter what happens, stay positive. And until next time, my friends, peace.